Hello, my name is Adewale Ajayi and I'm bringing you this show all the way from Canada. Today, based on popular demands, I would like to discuss the Victor Osimhen issue. Yeah, Victor Osimhen. Of course, you remember that I worked with Victor Osimhen as the media officer of the Flying Eagles of Nigeria, talking about the under-20 national team of Nigeria as far back as 2016, just before I relocated with my family to Canada in 2017. Osimhen has been my friend, and of course, we've been able to build a good relationship. Even at the last Nations Cup, the last AFCON that took place in Abidjan, I sat down to discuss with Victor Osimhen. I had two separate interviews with Victor Osimhen, and of course, I also tried to know how he's coping in Italy, and of course, his relationship with the Napoli fans. I must say that Osimhen has not been able to build a perfect relationship with the management of Napoli Football Club of Italy, of course, the president of the club, De Laurentiis, and of course, other members of the team. Perhaps those issues culminated in Osimhen deciding to leave Napoli. And of course, you know the issues that came after he announced his desire to leave Napoli. And of course, we also know that some of the fans became so agitated. There were issues that involved the fans protesting, and of course, we also had one or two comments that were not well accepted by the player. Now, those led us to where we are today. Those issues led us to where we are today. It's been a long while ever since that decision was taken. And of course, when the transfer window opened, everybody knew that Victor Osimhen was going. The president of the club, De Laurentiis, came out and told the world that Victor Osimhen is no longer going to be a part of Napoli Football Club. Of course, we also know that they placed a transfer fee of over 130 million euros on Victor Osimhen. That is about 150 million pounds in total. And of course, as at that time, the big clubs were all interested. Paris Saint-Germain was interested. Chelsea Football Club were interested, Arsenal Football Club were interested, and of course, I also understand that along the line, some clubs in the Saudi League were also interested in Victor Osimhen. So it was all looking like it was going to be a very big deal come the summer. So the summer started, and of course, just when you thought that the big clubs will start coming to price Victor Osimhen, nobody showed up. That is because of the issue of the financial fair play. Many clubs are beginning to check their spendings, and of course, they are being very cautious on how they spend the money. And of course, at this time, it became so clear that Osimhen might not just get what he wants. So he waited. He was patient. Along the line, just about 3 weeks to the close of the transfer window, Paris Saint-Germain, PSG of France, showed up. That was after they eventually sold Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid. So they showed up and they wanted to take Victor Osimhen to come and replace Kylian Mbappe. But along the line, after long discussions with Napoli Football Club, I understand that PSG offered about 75 million pounds for Victor Osimhen, and that deal was looking as if it was going to be concluded. It was looking like a good deal for Victor Osimhen. Osimhen was excited. He has already agreed personal terms with Paris Saint-Germain. In fact, he was getting ready to travel down to Paris to go and negotiate his own side of the deal. But the deal bunkered just because Napoli Football Club along the line decided that they were not in tune with what PSG was offering. They wanted a player to be added to this deal. And of course, the player they were asking for was Kane, the Japanese international, who of course plies his trade with Paris Saint-Germain and is a fantastic midfielder. PSG got angry with that request, and of course they told Napoli that was not the agreement on paper, and that if they insist that they want a player from PSG to be part of the deal, then they were going to pull out of the deal. And that was how PSG eventually pulled out of that deal. So when PSG left the deal and said they were no longer interested, Osimhen was left in the dark. Osimhen now wanted clubs to show up. Osimhen was still hopeful that PSG was going to come back and renegotiate the deal, but PSG did not show up. So while all this was happening, time was going, time was ticking, and of course we had barely 1 week left to the close of the transfer window. So now At this point, Osimhen got involved with the Saudi clubs. Of course, Al Ali Football Club of Saudi Arabia showed up and they said they wanted to sign Victor Osimhen. Al Ali made their first request about 3 days to the close of the transfer window, and they started negotiating with Victor Osimhen and his agent calendar. So much happened behind the scenes. And many thought that Victor Osimhen was going to Saudi Arabia because Al Ali made an offer of £65 million to Napoli Football Club. But again, £65 million was not what De Laurentiis wanted. He wanted something higher. But again, one thing that interests me, or perhaps one thing that caught everybody, was the fact that along the line, De Laurentiis accepted the £65 million and told Al Ali Football Club to go and negotiate with Victor Osimhen. So that got everybody thinking. So are we saying that this man was ready to take £65 million? Are we saying that this man was beginning to think of lowering, of reducing the offer for Victor Osimhen? I mean, the money for Victor Osimhen. So that got Chelsea fully involved. Chelsea were negotiating with Napoli about Romelu Lukaku. Lukaku wanted to move to Napoli. Chelsea owns Lukaku, and of course, Chelsea told Napoli to offer £35 million. Napoli kept negotiating, and along the line, both parties agreed for £30 million deal. And of course, Lukaku was signed eventually by Napoli. Now, Napoli said until they're able to take Lukaku from Chelsea, they will not officially allow Victor Osimhen to go. So in that way, they said they are not going to negotiate both deals side by side, because they knew too that Chelsea was very interested in Victor Osimhen. So they were not willing to negotiate both deals side by side. They told Chelsea in principle that Victor Osimhen was not available on loan, and that even if they are going to accept a loan deal, it has to be a loan deal with an obligation to buy. Now let me explain certain things to you guys, because majority do not understand what we mean by loan deals. Now, a loan deal gives you an opportunity to go and play for the club, play for whichever club that is interested for you for maybe 1 year or 2 years. Now we have 1 year loan, we have 2 years loan deal. So it gives Victor Osimhen the opportunity to go and play for Chelsea Football Club if it is a 1 year loan deal or maybe a 2 year loan deal. What it means too is that the club that is taking him on loan has to pay his salary during that period. It depends on the kind of loan. Sometimes the club might not be able to pay if the salary is so huge. So what they do, they negotiate with the selling club and say, okay, let us see how we are going to divide the amount. So like what happened between Raheem Sterling and Arsenal Football Club. Chelsea was willing to give Raheem Sterling to Arsenal, and of course along the line, Arsenal and Chelsea decided to sit and they negotiated how they were going to pay his salary. Of course, Raheem Sterling is on £240,000 a week. So what eventually happened was the fact that Chelsea agreed that they would pay £140,000 of the money, while Arsenal was to pay £100,000 of the money. So that is what happened. So now, let me tell you what we mean by obligation to buy and option to buy. Option to buy is you have an option to decide if you want to buy. Obligation to buy is you must buy. If you take him on loan for 1 year, after the loan deal, you must buy the player. So Napoli was telling Chelsea that even if we are going to give you on a loan deal, it has to be an obligation to buy, meaning that if you take him on loan after 1 year, you must bring the money to buy him. You understand? So those are the issues. And of course, Victor Osimhen and his camp, led by his agent Calendar, we are also saying that they are not too excited by a loan deal because Osimhen was bent on leaving Napoli Football Club of Italy. So those were very complicated issues. And of course, along the line, while they were doing all this negotiation, Al Ali Football Club of Saudi Arabia had already deposited £65 million on the table. They left 65 million euros on the table, and they've told Napoli, take it or leave it. We have £65 million for Victor Osimhen. If you want to sell, we will buy. And of course, they've also agreed personal terms with Victor Osimhen, and of course, that was €600,000. Yes, you heard me well, 600,000 euros. So Osimhen was also excited at that amount, and of course the young man wanted money. He needed the money. He needed to move out of Napoli, and he was looking at his options. But one thing that came up was the fact that Chelsea had always been his first choice, not because Chelsea is a spectacular club, or not because he just wants to go to Chelsea. He has said that he wants to play in the club in Europe. He said he wants to remain in Europe, and of course at that point Chelsea was the only club that was available in Europe that wanted to sign him. So let me say he was looking at the option of staying in Europe, and so he felt that perhaps he can still stay with Chelsea. I mean, he can sign with Chelsea. Now Chelsea was able to conclude the deal with Napoli Football Club. Romelu Lukaku was gone to Napoli, and so Chelsea came back and told Napoli that they want to sign Victor Osimhen. So they started negotiating. Initially, Chelsea told Osimhen that they were going to pay him £350,000 a week. That was the early negotiation. Along the line, Chelsea reduced that to £250,000 a week, and of course, just towards the end of the window, they brought that money down to £150,000. Now, Osimhen is on €315,000 in Napoli. That is about £280,000 in Napoli Football Club. Now, Osimhen is getting that much with Napoli, and Osimhen, of course, you also know that the money in the money you receive in Italy is not taxed, because they don't tax their money out there in Italy. So Osimhen would prefer to stay in Italy and collect his £280,000 or €215,000 than coming to England to collect £150,000 and of course being taxed. So that was a no-brainer for Osimhen. It was no deal for Osimhen and his agent, and of course they wanted Chelsea to sit on the fact, to look at the fact that this was not a good deal for Victor Osimhen. But Chelsea kept saying that they were going to sign Osimhen, and that they had to put one or two things in order. They had to send players away. They wanted Raheem Sterling to go. They wanted to get Sancho. They wanted to reduce their wage bill. So they were looking at the possibility of getting their wage bill reduced before they eventually tell Osimhen what they have on the table. So you remember that Raheem Sterling eventually went to Arsenal just about 1 hour to the close of the window. And once Raheem Sterling went, they came back and told Osimhen that now they are ready to do the Osimhen deal. At that point, Al Ahly Football Club have decided to go for Ivan Toney. Al Ahly signed Ivan Toney when they discovered too that Napoli Football Club has also upped the deal from 65 million euros to 80 million euros. You see, Napoli, we are beginning to sense that Osimhen might decide to go to Saudi Arabia. So they quickly took advantage of that, and they told Al Ahly to go and bring 80 million euros. And of course, Al Ahly felt slighted by that, and they said, we already agreed on 65 million euros. How suddenly we came up with 80 million euros? So Al Ahly got angry, and they decided to walk out of the deal. So that was how they signed Ivan Toney for 40 million euros. So Ivan Toney immediately went for his medical and off to Saudi Arabia. Osimhen was still hopeful that perhaps Chelsea was going to come up with something better. Just 20 minutes to the end of the transfer window, Chelsea gave the bombshell. They said they cannot go beyond £150,000 for Victor Osimhen. And at that point, it was a difficult decision for Osimhen to take. Osimhen was not going to take £150,000 when he knows that he's on £280,000 out there in Napoli. So Osimhen decided to back out of the deal. Himself and his agent decided to back out of the deal. Of course, I must say one thing very critical here. Chelsea took advantage of the fact that no two European clubs were interested in Osimhen as at the dying minutes of the transfer window. Chelsea also took advantage of the fact that Osimhen has given them, he has come out to tell the world that he wanted to stay in Europe. And once Chelsea saw that the Saudi club was already gone to sign Ivan Toney, they took advantage of that and decided to bring the wage down. So they brought down his money to as low as £150,000 just to make the guy feel offended. And Osimhen wept. He got so angry, and of course he decided to pull out of the deal. So that is how the Osimhen deal went. and that was why Osimhen did not sign for either the Saudi club side or Chelsea Football Club, and that is why Osimhen eventually decided to go back to Italy. Well, as we speak right now, Osimhen's name has been removed from the Napoli team list for the 2024-2025 Football League season, and of course Osimhen has been drafted to the under-23 team of Napoli Football Club. But again, there is still much to be said about Victor Osimhen. I'll be back after this short break. So welcome back. So like I said, Osimhen is not all over for Osimhen, because the transfer window in Saudi Arabia closes on Monday, which is today. It closes at about 12 o'clock midnight in Saudi, and of course that of Turkey is also still open. The window in Turkey is still open, and of course as at Monday morning there was a great news for Victor Osimhen, because we understand that Turkish top flight club, talking about Galatasaray Football Club of Turkey, have decided that they want to take Victor Osimhen on loan. We understand that Napoli Football Club put a call across to Galatasaray and said if they want to take Victor Osimhen on loan, and they said yes, they'll be willing to take Osimhen. So both parties have worked out a 1-year loan deal. That is, Osimhen will be with the club for a season-long loan deal for Victor Osimhen to go to Turkey to play for Galatasaray. And of course, I also understand that Galatasaray Football Club will be paying up to 90% of his salary. The other good news too is the fact that Galatasaray Football Club have also decided to put to a mark at least 9 to 10 million pounds. Yes, 9 to 10 million pounds they put aside for the salaries of Victor Osimhen. They say they have already put aside 9 to 10 million pounds to take care of all the salaries for the next 52 to 54 weeks. So let's hope that Victor Osimhen will sign for Galatasaray. Of course, we are following developments because they are still discussing with the player on club-to-club basis. I understand that the deal is already done. So let's hope that Osimhen will decide to go to Galatasaray Football Club in Turkey, go play for them, and of course get himself back to the mainstream of world football. I also understand that Napoli is willing to negotiate with 2 English club sides who are showing interest to sign Osimhen in the January transfer window. Galatasaray and Napoli are willing to let Osimhen go to any club that is willing to pay what Napoli wants in January, or perhaps they can wait to the end of the season in May to let Osimhen go to another club. So let's just wish Osimhen the very best of luck. I know that these are not the best of time for the Nigerian international, but I also know that Osimhen has been invited by the Nigerian national team, by Nigeria Football Federation, to be part of the Super Eagles games, the Nations Cup qualifiers against the Squirrels of Benin Republic, and of course the Rwanda national team. Both matches are coming up between this weekend and midweek next week. So let's hope that Osimhen can still be able to reenact those forms that made him the 8th best player in the world. He won the 8th best player in the world. He was on Ballon d'Or as the 8th best player in the world, and of course Osimhen was voted the best player in Africa. So let's hope that he can still be able to reenact that form, and he can be able to put behind him all the troubles, all the issues that came with the transfer window. We want to wish Victor Osimhen the very best of luck, because we know that Victor Osimhen is a superstar, and we expect the very best from him at any time. Thank you so much for watching this show. We want you to subscribe. We also want you to press the notification button, and we want you to always be part of this show, because we'll be back very soon. Thanks so much, and God bless. Bye-bye.